So hi, welcome to the Noise Podcast. I'm Shane.
I'm Glory.
And we're here with
Hey, Queen.
and we're asking some questions today about our upcoming album, Hot Singles in Your Area. So congrats on that, by the way. How do you feel about the response to the announcement so far?
I'm terrified, if I'm being honest. I feel like this project has had like so much more momentum than I anticipated based off of just EPs. So like, this was the thing that I had in mind that I'm like, oh, well, this is how I'm gonna show people what my project is. And like people are aware of it before I even got to do that. So now I'm just like, well, I hope it lives up to what you were thinking it was gonna be.
Yeah, there's been a lot of excitement I've seen online, and I think it's going to live up to it. The album is fucking awesome.
Exactly. It's
Thank
so
you,
fun.
thank you.
Yeah. Mhm.
I appreciate that a lot.
Of course.
Of course. So is there any meaning behind the album title or cover art?
So with hot singles in your area, I knew that I wanted to like allude to the early 2000s like internet era and also just that sort of like reality TV show like Jersey Shore and Girls Next Door and like that sort of time frame. And then like obviously Bimbo Core in and of itself is a lot of like 2000s pop inspired mixed with the metal stuff.
Mhm.
But it was important to me to have that like super hypersexual kind of aspect to it because growing up in the early 2000s, like obviously I was still closeted. There was the whole like sort of misogyny around the like, why people reclaim the word bimbo now is just like it was kind of embarrassing or like looked down upon to be hyper feminine.
Mhm.
So obviously like playing into that era where all of the stuff in my album that I'm talking about so blatantly was not allowed has been like really cool and therapeutic and like a fun thing to get to do in my adulthood because like
Yeah.
now that it truly doesn't matter, I'm able to like say things how I wanted to. So it's kind of just an album of like reclaiming everything that you grew up with, whether that be within like the scene aspect of things and also just like again growing up in that time frame. So
Yeah,
Mhm,
hell yeah, I love
absolutely.
that.
And even though you said like it is kind of normalized now, it's not something that's as looked down upon, I guess. It's still something new and fresh that I don't hear other artists talking about, the kind of hypersexuality, hyper feminine thing. It's still so fucking new. So I do think you are like paving a way in the scene for this type of music. And I think that's pretty cool.
thank you. Yeah, I definitely didn't dial back like all the sexual undertones too, because I try really hard in my music to not censor myself because
Mm.
like, my music is, I write all of it with this like sense of humor behind it, which kind of makes you not want to turn away from like when I talk about the super serious subjects on the record, like sexual assault and that sort of
Mhm.
thing. But also just with the like sexuality aspect of it, I feel like so many things are still taboo in that sense. And
Mhm.
I feel like if you normalize conversations around sex, that people are like less afraid to ask for things like, boundaries that they have during sex and that sort of thing. So I try and like not censor myself in any capacity and say the most extreme version of anything at any given time so
Mhm.
that people feel like a little less awkward doing very normal things, you know?
Yeah.
And that's kind of all of Bimbo Core in general, is I do very hyperbolic things just to like point out a small thing within that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hell
absolutely.
yeah.
So can you tell us a little bit about your writing process for the album?
So honestly, the first song on the record that I wrote technically was 18 plus, but I wrote that song to be a standalone song initially. And then like I had already had the kind of idea of doing this like, you know, early 2000s inspired like sexual album. And then like for whatever reason, this one day randomly just like hot singles in your area popped into my mind as a title. And I was like, wait, that actually makes perfect sense because then I could do the whole thing where I like do porn categories and I can do like an actual like themed album and blah, 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 blah. And 18 plus as a title just sort of magically fit into that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I came up with the title track name first, and then I think I wrote hot singles in your area, and then I ended up having a session with Chris Freeman, who's in like Hot Mulligan,
Mhm.
and we did this song that didn't make the record called Cuff.
Hmm.
And we were just like it's because I told him, that I wanted to do an album of like these porn category song titles, but have them not be like actually about porn, like have them be all sort of different things.
Mhm.
And he listed like Cuck and then these two other titles. So we wrote the three songs, and then the two other titles that he had were songs that I actually had already written down in my idea when I first thought of hot singles in your area. So
Yeah.
those songs ended up making the record. And then from them, we just like kept going. Like, I had this sort of revolving door of like my friends coming in with being co-writers and that sort of thing. But honestly, like genre wise, I never really know what I'm going to do in a session. I work with the same producer across all of the Scene Queen stuff. Like he did Bimbo Core Volume 1, Volume 2, and this. My friend Zach Jones.
Mhm.
And he's also the one that plays like guitar on the majority of the record.
Mhm.
But basically, I'll just like go into a session and I'm like, Zach, I'm mad, sad, this, or that today. We're going to write a song that's exactly, the mood I'm in today.
Mhm.
And he just kind of like gives me like kind of an angry guitar riff. And I'm like, can we do it more like, this style or something like that? Like more genty, more this, whatever. He gives me another version of that. And then I usually come in with like a song title and like a hook written out.
Mhm.
And then we just kind of like come up with a hook and then do the pop section of it last.
Yeah.
And that just ends up being like whatever trap beat or pop beat that we're feeling like that sort of day. But yeah, like genre wise, I don't really pay attention to that. Just kind of randomly comes out based on whatever vibe I'm feeling that day. But so we write the song that whole day, and then I track final vocals at the end of the session, and I never touch the track again.
Oh,
It's
wow.
done the day we
Whoa.
write it. Because I'm like, I'm one of those people, like writing is super therapeutic for me in the sense that also like, I don't know, maybe it's because I have ADHD or something, but like my attention span on some sort of trauma in my life is about the 30 seconds that it's actively happening. And then like I start making jokes about it, repress it immediately, whatever.
Mhm.
So I
Yeah.
can never write about like intense things unless it's the exact day that it happened. And I also can never be as mad on a vocal take as I will be like that day. So
Yeah.
songs like Pink Push-Up Bra, like I will never get as angry about the specific topic of that one, like that day that I wrote it.
Mhm.
So yeah, I try and like space out my sessions so that I'm only really doing like 2 a month because like I said, I track the same day.
Yeah.
And I feel like if I were to do a week of sessions, then like my takes would get like a little less energetic. But because I space them out across the year and only do like a little bit at a time, I have a lot more to draw from like emotionally. And then
Okay.
you get these like crazy varied songs, but I just end up like switching the order of like I wrote 2 mad ones on this week, 2 like happy ones on this week, and then we, flip-flopped them each way.
Yeah. So because it's kind of like capturing lightning in a bottle with your songs, it's kind of capturing that energy and that vibe, that emotion that you're feeling in that moment. What do you do in those moments in between studio sessions? Do you write outside of the studio to kind of capture that, or do you just kind of hold it in and then let it out at the studio?
So I definitely like I'm one of those people that just writes like a notes app sort of thing.
Mhm.
And then like I do like voice memos, but I try and keep all of my like notes app and stuff to just the hooks of it and then
Okay.
like change the verse closer to that day because I feel like I'm gonna be like more attached to that sort of thing on that day. So like all the rap sections end up being like something that I was laughing at that day, or like, a co-writer came in with one like random word that I thought was funny and we ran in with that. So yeah, I try and kind of keep it to like just the hooks of it. But I also, early on in songwriting, because prior to this project, I was trying to write in like the pop and hip hop world. And I had this mentor that told me like, if your song takes more than 15 minutes to get to the hook, then you're lying to yourself and you should scrap it and start a new one.
Oh, wow.
And I like live and die by that. I'm like, because if I can't immediately get it out, it's not going to happen for me. So I like, yeah, I try and keep all my like Scene Queenie stuff into those sessions. But because, like I said, I'm writing and tracking stuff that day in between to like not get, like, I don't know, off my game in the sense of writing, I try and still, collab a lot with different writers. And for me recently, I've been traveling a lot back and forth from LA to Nashville. It's been really nice for me because I kind of now have been getting to write in like more moody pop punk and a little bit of like country stuff and stuff that's fully outside of my wheelhouse in scene queen sense, but still like keeps me in the like, I don't know, action of writing.
Yeah. And when you're doing those writing sessions that are like outside of the scope of what you do for Scene Queen, are you still writing for Scene Queen, or are you looking at other projects or for other people?
I'm definitely looking at other projects and for other people. I mean, writing still is to this day like something that I for sure am like gonna focus on eventually. Like I can't get enough of writing, but it just, when the Scene Queen stuff started taking off, I was like, I should be done for the next like few years and really focus on this while I have the chance. So now I feel like I'm finally in a space where I can like start focusing on like that thing in addition to this now. But yeah, I think like, I don't know, I think also it's just good for you as a writer to kind of listen to other people's experiences and see how they would word things. Cause I feel like at the end of the day, it's always just gonna like open up your own personal vocabulary, or like maybe you're looking at like melodies a different way, or I don't know. So it helps me a lot, like not only because I do a lot of co-writes as well, like within my sessions, like I have my friends coming in and out, and I like to change up writers very often that are coming in with me just to see like, oh, will they influence the genre this way, this way, this way. Like the last track on the record is the song Climax, is like this sort of 6/8 waltzy thing. And I wrote that song. I had like specifically asked my friend Lolo to come in on the track to write with me, because I was like, Lolo does like amazing sad ballads, and I'm like, nothing would throw people off more than to have this sort of waltzy 6/8 sort of vibe. And she walked in and immediately started laying down, like without me even bringing that up, like this sort of like 6/8 acoustic guitar thing. And then like my producer kind of built the track off of that. So I mean, like I bring people in with the intention of like, I want to have whatever they have as well on the track. So yeah, I don't know. I think it just, I feel like if you write with as many people as possible, you're going to get the best possible product at the end, because I feel like sometimes you can get too stuck in your head. And I've made it pretty clear with this project that I never want Scene Queen to just be like one specific sound. So in order to do that, I try and write with as many people in as many different places as possible.
Gotcha. Makes
Absolutely.
sense. Out of curiosity, could we get like bookends of like when the process for the record started and ended? Because obviously like 18 Plus is on the record, but that was meant to be a standalone. So like when was it's time to start working on a record? Like when did that happen?
So I have to think of when 18 Plus actually came out, because I think we dropped 18 Plus like 6 weeks after we wrote it. Like we wrote the song and we were like, that's a banger, that has to come out right now. So I think we started writing the song, I'd say, or like started writing the record about a month after 18 Plus came out. And then we stopped writing the record, I want to say no. So we had stopped writing the song, or like writing the record before I went on tour. Man, this feels like forever ago, but I guess it's actually not that long ago. I stopped writing the record in last summer, so I want to say probably August.
Okay.
And then Climax, I added to the record. I did a session in December, and it was like coming off of a tour, and seasonal depression was hitting, and I was like having this sort of weird thing where I was like, this is a crazy transitional part of my life, because I just like finished this huge US headline tour, but like also, and I'm getting everything that I've always said that I wanted, but it also feels very weird, and like you have imposter syndrome. And I called up Lolo and I'm like, are you also feeling this? Because she was also just on this like winter tour with all of these bands that she grew up loving. And she's like, yes, I would love to write that with you. So then we ended up like writing that song, not knowing if it was actually going to go on the record, because the record was pretty much done. And then we were like, no, this is kind of the perfect closing to a record. So it ended up being the last song, but the majority was done last summer.
Gotcha. Makes sense. So how'd the track list for the album come about? Did you write the opener be the opener, closer be a closer, shuffle around and see what fits? What was that process like?
We wrote all of it just out of order, basically, and then kind of mix it around. But I intentionally like put it ended up, once we wrote all of them, I did it in kind of a way where I'm like, the first couple of songs are talking about like everything traumatic in my life that happened to me, to where I like felt like I needed to create this safe space in the scene and also in my own like personal life and become this like secondary like alter ego outside of myself.
Mhm.
And then the middle section is kind of like reclaiming my power, like sexually, and discovering my sexuality and all this sort of like second adolescence thing that I had in my 20s,
Mhm.
which also like ended up being this cool thing. Because for a lot of queer people that have like that like didn't come out till later in their lives, you do have sort of this kind of messy second adolescence where you have to like rediscover yourself. And you're like, I already experienced dating for the first time once. Now I have to do it again. And
Yeah.
I'm just as awkward, even though I spent all this time over here, like trying to be independent and taking back my power and blah, 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 blah. So
Yeah.
then it kind of ends on this like funny thing where it's like there's some songs that are like, I'm a baddie, like you guys can't, you wish you were like me. But then there's a song like Oral Fixation, which is like, just kidding, I have no game. Every time I talk to you, I get word vomit.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
like it sort of ends with like Climax, which ended up being like, okay, I spent all this time doing all of this stuff, you know, to take back my power and like make this character that like now, you know, being scene queen makes me so much more confident in my day-to-day life as Hannah. But then also like at the end of the day, like it's both a love song to like my significant other, but then also like a love song to my fan base of like, as much as I've grown to be independent, I hope we never lose this sort of vulnerability, because you can be as independent as you want to be, but at the end of the day, like you do need people you can rely on. And I'm very thankful that I have such like a nurturing fan base, because like even on my worst days, they're just like so accepting of me. And like, you know, when I'm sick or whatever and can't come out to talk, they like send me gifts behind, you know, like backstage and,
Yeah.
you know, thoughtful notes and everything. And then like my significant other is also in the music industry. So he like was very good at, he's been touring now for like a decade. So he just like, when I'm sad on tour, will like give me all of this advice and stuff, and like really just has been like the best confidant for me, and also like little mentor within music. When I kind of get like overwhelmed with things. So yeah, it like ends on this wholesome note and starts at the craziest, most feral note. And it didn't, I didn't write it that way, but it like weirdly worked out and aligned that way.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
you had the sections. You just so happened to have enough songs like for 3 sections.
Yeah, exactly.
but-
And I think had I not spaced out the writing sections, I maybe would have gotten too into my head about it, about like what the order needed to be. But because like I wasn't thinking that they would go together, or like what order they would go together, and just kind of writing to a theme, it like weirdly aligned correctly.
Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely.
Absolutely.
And just would like to say your fan base is super supportive. I see the replies to your tweets when you
Mhm.
tweet about being down or whatever, and or that you can't come out. And I'm just like, they are so fucking nice, because there are some fan bases that would rip the person to shreds for
Oh my
literally no
goodness.
reason, and your fans
Yeah.
don't do that. So big shout out to them.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I honestly, I mean, I write music to kind of attract the fan base that I would like to have and like create
Yep.
the space and the scene that I would like to have. So it's not surprising to me that they're the way that they are,
Mhm.
because like I, you know, from the get-go, like with songs like 18 plus, it definitely weeds out like a bunch of really bad people, but then also just having songs like, you know, my first song on the record is this song BDSM, which like means beat down slut metal, but also means big dumb stupid men.
Mhm.
And it's one of those things, like I wrote all these songs that are talking about like very specific criticisms of men, like with songs like Pink Push-Up Bra and 18 plus. It's like I hate this very specific type of men, but like any sort of criticism of men on the internet, you also get this like random influx of like men that should not be allowed on the internet, quite honestly.
Mhm.
Yes.
Just being like, you're a man hater because you think that you shouldn't be able to sexually assault a woman. And you're like,
Right.
yeah. And then I was like, if that's the bar for being a man hater, I'm man hater number 1.
Yeah.
Like
Count me
whatever.
in. Yeah.
So I have that song that's just like I repeat over and over and over, being like, Scene Queen hates men. And it's obviously like jokingly, because this album ends with a love song to my male boyfriend. And like it also, my band that I tour with, like my guitar player and drummer are both men. So I'm like,
Mhm.
clearly I don't hate men. I have them around me very often.
Yeah.
But like I put that in there intentionally, being like, if you don't get this sense of humor from the get-go, and you're like not down to have a space where like you can make these criticisms of people and also laugh and like do all of these crazy things and have this chaotic sound and like wear pink for the hell of it, like that sort of thing, then I really don't care if you listen to the rest of my record anyway. So I was like, slap that on the first track, see if they'll stick around. And it honestly has worked out. So
That's good.
Damn
That's
right.
good.
Yeah. So would you be able to tell us where your headspace is at while you're creating this record? I know you went into it a little bit in the beginning, but if you want, you can go a bit more in depth if you'd like.
So honestly, like I wrote Hot Singles in Your Area, and also why I think the title is so funny is because like obviously I wanted to make the joke of like you releasing an album, so there's a lot of singles coming out, so it's like, oh, the hottest singles near you.
Yeah.
But also like I wrote the album about like being single and finding myself like through that sort of process. And it is cool because again, like I like writing songs that have a sense of humor in general, but it like worked out well on this record because I wanted to kind of portray this message of like life is going to be super messy, very often traumatic. You're going to have weird dating experiences, you're going to have weird life experiences and like stuff that like shakes you to your core, but at the end of the day, if you don't like laugh at yourself and make light of the situation, you're going to crumble because like life will happen regardless. So you might as well laugh at it and make it like a whole thing because that's so much more enjoyable to live life that way, I feel like. So like that was kind of just how I approached the entire record of like, let's take all these situations. Like I could even come in on a session like the day we wrote Pink Push-Up Bra was like a very, very heavy day in my life. Like I was just like very triggered by something I saw that day. And I walked into the session like almost teary-eyed. I was so angry. And I left that session like hysterically laughing because we were like, I do the scream like vocals last on all of my sessions. And every time I do them, my producer Zach just like laughs at me and he's like, why don't you ever act like this in your day-to-day life? Why are you never angry? And I'm like, well, because I can't get a take like that. Like I can't get that sort of rage out unless I'm just like being silly, goofy mood all day long until this exact moment. So like we just end up like cracking everything and then like laughing by the end of it. So I don't know. I just tried to look at the whole record and have the headspace of like, this is going to be like a lot of different topics, but above all, this will be a funny record and it will be like fun and chaotic to listen to.
Absolutely.
Now, is there like any sort of anxiety like putting out a deeply personal piece of music? Like I understand it's your brand, but like is there anxiety still like putting yourself out there like that?
I feel like honestly the most nervous I've ever been for a song is so for Climax I have like a very wholesome like not funny at all sort of song or video to go with it, and it's the first time I've not used like humor as a sort of way to deliver things. It's like very serious and outright, and I feel like that's the most exposed I've ever been, but I did that intentionally because I wanted to have one song of being like, okay, when the day ends and I'm not seeing Queen, how am I still taking care of Hannah? Because like that's important too.
Yeah.
So it's like the first time that I've ever like kind of let people into that aspect of my life where I'm like not so scene queeny. But in general, I think like being this sort of alter ego allowed me to not have that anxiety because at the end of the day, like if you don't like my music and like leave me whatever comment about it, I'm like, well, you hate Scene Queen, you don't know Hannah, like, and I just move on with my day. Exactly. So that song is making me nervous. So I'm like, if you don't like that, that's a personal attack. But I know that that's not real. But
yeah, I fucking love when artists have a alter ego to kind of be able to separate the negativity or anything like that. Like fucking Beyonce has Sasha Fierce. That's her, alter ego, and that's how she presents herself on stage. So I fucking love that you embrace Scene Queen and say Scene Queen is her own person, Hannah's her own person, and you're able to distinguish the two on your music and how you present yourself. I just wanted to acknowledge that. I think that's so fucking cool.
It is funny though, like with having an alter ego, obviously my sense of humor is still the same regardless of what mode I'm in because I have to be able to write these weird songs that I write. So I have like a very strange brain to begin with, but I think like outgoingness wise, sometimes I feel like people think I'm mad at them when they meet me, like just on the street as Hannah, because they like have this perception that I'm going to be like so
Yeah.
110 all the time, which
Yeah.
when you do that as a living is like kind of exhausting. So you want to like chill
Absolutely.
out a little bit during your day. And I feel
Mhm.
like they think that like I'm upset with them or something because I'm not at this level. But I'm like, really, I'm just more mellow than you thought I was.
Yeah.
So it is one of those things I have to give, like, if they know me through music first, I have to like give a little disclaimer that I'm like, yeah, like that's its own thing.
Yeah.
I'm like this
Exactly.
normally.
Gotcha.
Mhm.
Hell yeah.
Makes sense.
So how do you recommend your fans to listen to this album for the first time? Should do in the car with friends, in the dark with headphones on? Is it a workout album, party album? What do you personally recommend?
Um, hmm. I would say you should do it at the gym, having a little like strut situation on the treadmill. Feels like it
Mhm.
would work for every vibe. But also, I write my songs to be like something that you can laugh at when you're in a bad mood. So whether you're already in a good mood and just like want to laugh at something, or if you're in a bad mood and need something to listen to that like pulls you out of that bad mood, because unfortunately, like the album is very relatable in a lot of different capacities to a lot of people. So I'm
Mhm.
like, that's what it's for. Listen to it with whomever you want to, but it's definitely there to like keep you on your toes the entire time because there's a lot of genre shifts and that sort of thing in it. But also at the end of the day, it is a fairly funny album.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Hell yeah.
Makes sense.
But I put that sad song at the end. So I'm like, so people might end up crying at the end. I don't know. Like,
Yeah, all
I
that
could
emotion
ruin.
just builds up.
I was joking about it too because I'm gonna play that song on tour and it's like sandwiched between two really feral songs and I'm like I'm gonna ruin the vibe immediately like just and then I'm like all right guys let's go back to the ass
Yeah.
Right, get
shaking
back
sorry
up.
you
Let's get
cried
that twerkle
Yeah.
pit going again.
yeah basically
Yeah,
That's
hell yeah.
great.
the twerkle bit is like honestly one of the greatest things I've ever done in the sense of it's the perfect icebreaker to have a good show.
Mhm.
Like I
Absolutely.
honestly have rarely had a show where I was like they weren't hype enough if I play Pink G String early on because once you see someone twerking in the circle pit, you're like none of this matters. No one gives a fuck what I'm doing. Like
Yeah.
truly they do not care because if they didn't laugh at that and wanted to join that with me, then they
Mhm.
don't care what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
then like from that moment on, the crowds are just so feral and like say the most feral things. They're like, I don't know, waving around like dollar bills just because they like want to wave something. Like I don't know.
Yeah.
It's the perfect vibe setter. So like maybe that was the key is that after this sad song I have to do the twerkle pit, but
Yeah.
it does pain me to hold on to the twerkle pit. It's like the first thing I want to do when I play a set.
Fair. This one should be super, super quick off the top of your head. I want you to describe this album for new listeners in 3 words. No more, no less.
Sexy, sparkly, shocking. There you go.
Ooh,
That's good.
And
Yeah.
I used alliteration.
It
Yeah.
was perfect. Perfect.
Most of the time we get the 2 words that start with the same letter and then they fuck it up on the third. So you kept it all the way through. Hell yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I tried my best.
It's appreciated.
so in that same train of thought, is there a certain feeling or emotion you want listeners to have while going through the album?
What the hell?
That's it? That's the emotion?
Wow.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I mean, listen to the record and tell me you didn't think that at some point.
Gonna be honest, I
That's
did.
fair.
I did.
Yeah. You never know where it's going.
Yeah.
I like
Exactly.
never let them know your next move and then also your next one.
Yeah.
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 Damn right. Hell yeah. So, are you able to touch on any particularly challenging or standout moments during the creation of this album, positive or negative?
So I think like just because I've only really toured 2.5 years now,
Mhm.
every effing session of that record, I was sick. Like I was coming off the tour and I
No.
was sick, about to leave for tour, and my body was like, "Oh, you're nervous? You should get sick." Like, and so it was like I was just popping. I think I'm gonna be the reason for like a new strain of virus because I was on so many like antibiotics throughout the course of this record because they're like, you have strep throat, you have this, you have this. You ever had mono before? And I was like 7 years ago, and they're like, you probably have it again. I don't know. Like,
No.
yeah, like it was just my tonsils were perpetually swollen on this record,
Oof.
which is fine. In a weird way, it worked out because I wrote a record that I will never have a trouble performing live because I've
Mhm.
had to do it in like the worst vocal capacity
Mhm.
ever.
Yeah.
So it's like in the pocket of my voice to 100% because I'm like outside of that, I would have been like irritated every session.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's fucking wild.
Yeah.
Every single session. Damn.
Like,
warrior.
I'd say, if not every single session, I'd say probably 75% of the record I was sick at some point. Like,
That fucking
Yeah.
blows. That
Wow.
blows. Did you struggle at all with like flip-flopping between, you know, the writing brain and then the touring brain and having to keep flip-flopping between the two?
I honestly, like, I'm one of those people that I'm like, I can't wait to put out this record so I can play it live. Like,
Mhm.
live shows is where I feel like I'm in my bag the most, to be honest with you. Like, I just love performing in every capacity, and I love like working the crowd and having like a ton of crowd participation in my shows and stuff. So honestly, no, I like just get this like intense excitement. I think coming off of tour was a little weird just because when you're like trying to write, that's why I initially tried to write like I'd go into a session for probably like the first three songs and I'd be like, I want to write a this sort of sound vibe. And that got like I scrapped that idea so quickly because I'd be coming off of tour and I'd be so jet lagged. And I'm like, oh, I wanted to write the dance pop one today. And I'm like, what the hell was I like? There's no way I'm going to be able to do that song today.
Yeah.
This has to be the sad, angry, whatever one. And then like before I was going on tour and I was in a good mood and I actually wanted to like, I was ready to go on the tour. That's when I would do all the dancey ones because I'm like, oh, well, next tour I'll finally get to play this and I want to do that. So
Yeah, gotcha.
that
Makes
makes
sense. So for this question, I want you to picture you're on tour, you're at a gas station for a rest stop. What is your snack of choice?
So honestly, you know how they're like your body is a temple?
Uh-huh.
My body is a gas station restroom, but like not like a Love's, not like a Love's, like a standalone, like you're in the middle of the desert and it has one gas pump.
Mhm.
That is how I treat my body in terms of like what I eat on tour. Because
Yeah.
when I'm not on tour, yesterday, I was like, I'm gonna go for a like flirty little run. And I like surprised myself. I ran like 5 miles in the like Tennessee heat yesterday. And I was
Yeah.
like, you know how I'm gonna respond to that? I'm gonna go get 3 gas station taquitos. And I walked.
Damn right.
I walked to the gas station. Like there was
Mhm.
other food around, and I walked past that and I walked into a speedway and I was like, taquitos. And that's like the baseline of where my like day-to-day food goes.
Yeah.
So then when I'm on tour, there's that thing that came out about like Uncrustables being filled with lead. And I was like, unbothered. I'm
I
like,
guess I've
next
eaten
day,
lead.
I was, yeah, or not Uncrustables, Lunchables.
Uh-huh.
I was like,
Oh,
next
yes.
day,
Mhm.
next day, Lunchables girly. Like that's probably my go-to thing at a gas station is like an Uncrustable and a taquito and then like a Rice Krispie treat. But
Mhm.
then like I try and like offset all of that by being like, I'm gonna get a sugar-free vitamin water.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I'll-
Yeah, it cancels
and
it
I'll
out.
I'll reap all the benefits of those vitamins with my lead-based
Yeah.
meal that I just consumed.
Holy fuck.
Well, I mean, if
Yeah.
you think about it, at least yesterday, like you walked to the gas station to get the taquito, so like you canceled it
Yeah.
out.
Exactly.
I couldn't feel my toes because of what I ate, but I did walk there, yeah.
Exactly. Damn. And on the topic of food, if Scene Queen was a dish, what dish would Scene Queen be and why?
Probably sushi because I'm the best.
Yeah. Okay.
That or I'd be like, okay, actually, I take it back. I'd probably be like a bagel with a really runny egg. Like
Ooh.
so delicious, but also like a little bit overwhelming in terms of like so impossible to eat and it's like messy and whatever.
Yeah.
But like at the end of the day, nothing hits better than a really like runny egg sort of bagel with cheese.
Yeah. Damn
All
right.
right.
That's beautiful.
And for the
Thank
last
you.
couple questions, we're going to shift completely away from music and go straight to death row.
Boom.
So if you're on death row, what would your last meal be with a drink?
Okay, lobster mac and cheese.
Okay.
Okay, solid.
Then probably like a brisket sandwich.
Okay.
Okay.
And then I'm throwing in sushi.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm
damn
gonna
it.
have terrible indigestion, but I'm dying, so I guess it doesn't matter.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then I have to have something like I not only do I love pink like color wise, but I love pink taste, as
Yeah.
in just like artificial pink taste. You
Mhm.
know those like cookies that are like the frosted cookies
Yes.
that are like styrofoam on the bottom, but just like pink essence on top?
Yes.
I unironically love those.
They're
So
great.
like those,
Mhm.
and then like we'll go sugar-free vitamin water. And
Of course.
today I'm really into the like, I don't know if you've tried the raspberry chocolate one.
Ooh.
That's like new, but it
Okay.
smacks. So
Yeah.
that, and
That
also
sounds
I'm
crazy.
into, okay, I love this drink. It just came out. My boyfriend thinks it's rancid. He said it tastes like sunscreen, but I like it for that reason.
Okay. Bold. Okay. Okay.
So Dr. Pepper has that new like coconut cream Dr. Pepper,
Mhm.
Ooh.
and it really does smell like tanning lotion.
Oh,
And it
yeah.
kind of does also taste like tanning lotion, but like it's Dr. Pepper and it tastes delicious to me. So that would be the other additional drink because all girlies need 2 beverages.
Okay,
Of
you're
course.
really selling this for me because I've seen it all over the place. I haven't tried it yet. I've heard mixed reviews. Your review is really selling it for me, though. Tanning lotion.
I mean, like, yeah. As someone that likes eating Lunchables like it's a delicacy,
Mhm.
if you go into it with that mindset of like the same person that would drink a Dr. Pepper like coconut cream is the same person that like grew up putting hot dogs in their mac and cheese for like the flavor of hot dog meat, you know? Like I
Yeah.
love hot dog meat.
Yeah. No, I get you're speaking my language. It felt like you saw me for a second.
It looked
I
like
think-
Glory like took offense to that. She was like, "That's me."
Wait a minute.
No. Yeah, just consistently rancid vibes I have food-wise.
At least you're real, you know?
Yeah.
It's fair. I hate when people just say, a pack of almonds. Like that's just fucking
Yeah.
ridiculous. Yeah.
No, like when I'm on tour, people are
Mhm.
like, "You look exhausted," and I'm like, "Well, yeah, I've been eating hot dog dinner. Like, I can't be stopped."
Yeah.
You think a couple hours in the bunk is gonna fix what I did yesterday? No, like I'm just gonna look burnt until the end of this.
Damn right. Damn. If you could live in one fictional world for a week, where would you live?
Wherever Strawberry Shortcake lives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Damn right. Which variant, though?
I feel like that would just depend on what like thing I'd want to eat. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I just like want to eat Strawberry Shortcake's head. You know what I mean? Like her
Head?
hat,
Okay.
like
Yeah. Okay.
But I can't tell if it's a hat or if her hair like is it like it comes out. You know what I mean? Like is she
Yeah.
like Toadette but a strawberry version, or is
Uh-huh.
she like wearing a strawberry hat? Do we know for sure?
Yeah. What's the lore?
Is it like a sea turtle shell? Would she be scalped
Ooh.
if you took it off?
Oh my god! There are answers out there. We need to find them because no fucking.
So many burning questions here.
There's so many bald Strawberry Shortcake edits, I'm sure. We could find them.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
So I thought of asking the last question. Every single person who's spoken to have said that is the most important question. What's your favorite color?
Oh, pink for sure. But I have like varying days where I'm like baby pink and other days magenta. But I feel like hot pink always is like, I always feel good in that. I don't have to have a certain level of tan to be wearing that shade. Because sometimes with pink, I'm like, oh, it looks like it's my body. I don't like this.
Fair enough. Yeah.
I'm like too pink toned for a lot of pinks.
Yeah. You got to balance it out.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So as I said, that's all the questions we have today. Is there anything that you would like to plug?
Listen to my album. I'm sorry I like, put it in between talking about like hot dog meat and
That's how it goes around here.
Mhm.
yeah, but maybe that I feel like again, I like talk to my audience in a way that I attract only the people that I would want.
Mhm.
And I feel like if they were not repulsed by the like lead hot dog meat conversation, that they would be interested in my music and the vibe it has to offer.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you for style. It's been Scene Queen, and we have been the Good Noise Podcast.